Welcome back to This is Thailand. Tonight's story is a little different from most of the ones we tell here. His name is Joost. He's 55, Dutch, born in Zaandam, just north of Amsterdam, and he spent 31 years as a scaffolder. Steel, bolts, wind, rain, refineries. Not a soft man. Not a stupid one either. And that's what makes this one sit strangely with me, because Joost didn't come to Thailand wide-eyed. He'd already been burned once, somewhere else, and he'd learned from it. He wrote himself 3 rules before he ever booked the flight, 3 simple rules, and he kept every one of them. I want you to hold on to that as you listen. He kept them. All 3. That's the part that's going to stick with you. What he didn't account for was that the thing coming for him wasn't going to walk through the front door at all. Here's his story, in his own words. 31 years I put up scaffolding. You know what that is? Everybody thinks it's just poles. It is not just poles. You have standards, you have ledgers, you have braces, you have base plates, and every single coupler has to be torqued to 50 Newton meters or a man dies. That is the job. That is the whole job. One coupler, Pernis mostly, the refinery, shut down work in January when the wind comes off the Maas and goes straight through you like it has somewhere better to be. Shipyards in Rotterdam, social housing blocks in Amsterdam, Noord, where the residents throw things at you from the balconies because you are blocking their light. 31 years of that, and I was good, I'll say it. I don't have the Dutch thing where you must pretend you are average. I was good. I could look at a facade and see the structure before I saw the building. Here is what that does to a man's head, though. It teaches you that everything can be inspected. Everything. You walk the deck, you check the couplers, you find the weak point, you brace it, and then it holds. That is not a philosophy for me. That is just true. Structures fail at the point you did not check. Always. Every time. In 31 years, I never once saw a collapse where afterwards you could not point at exactly the thing somebody skipped. So I applied it to people. Of course I did. What else do I have? I should tell you about the Philippines because otherwise nothing after this makes sense. Cebu. 3 years. Her name was Riza. I am not going to sit here and make her into a monster because she was not one, and honestly, I don't know what she was. I paid for a Sari store, which is a little shop. You sell shampoo in sachets and cold Coke and cigarettes one at a time. I paid for a tricycle so her cousin could work. I paid the tuition for her brother, and the brother was actually a nice boy. I liked him. And a roof. The roof was the last thing, and then the phone. On the table, face up. That's it. That's the whole story. It's not even original, is it? Every man reading this has heard it 40 times and probably told it twice. I flew back to Schiphol in February. Gray. Rain that isn't rain, just wet air. And I did not tell one person. Not my sister. And my sister and I are close. We speak every week. She still does not know. Not the men I worked beside for 20 years, who I would trust with my life and did, daily. That is not a figure of speech in my trade. Nobody. Because here is the thing about being the blunt one. I have always been the one who says the uncomfortable thing at the table. In Holland, this is normal. We consider it polite, actually. We consider it a courtesy. I tell you the truth, and I do not waste your time. Foreigners find it rude. Fine. But when you are the man who says the hard thing, you cannot then be the man who was made a fool of in Cebu. The mouth doesn't open. It just doesn't. So I sat with it. All of that year I sat with it. And this is the part where I have to be honest with you. And I've had a long time now to think about how to say it. I decided that Cebu was a mistake in the execution. You understand? Not in the idea. In the execution. I told myself, Joost, you went there with nothing, no plan, no limits. You were 49, and your mother had just died, and you got on a plane, and you let a woman set the terms, and you paid for a roof on a house you could not enter. That is not a man being deceived. That is a man not doing his inspection, which sounds like wisdom. It really does. It sounded like wisdom to me at 2 in the morning with a beer in my hand. And it's the single stupidest thought I have ever had, because what I had actually done was decide the structure was sound and only the workmanship was bad. And when you believe that, you do not go back and check the drawings. You just go back with better tools. I sold the flat in Zaandam. 19 years I had it, small, one bedroom, view of the back of another building. The market was good, I did well. Then I cashed out my pension early, which every Dutchman will tell you is idiotic and every Dutchman is right. AOW would come later at 67, so I had a gap to cover. Altogether, about 195,000 euros. And I want to be careful how I say this because it matters. That is not rich, not for a Dutchman. My brother-in-law is an accountant in Utrecht, and he'd call that a rounding error. But for a man who spent his life hanging off a building in the rain, it was the most money I had ever seen in one place with my name on it, and it was enough that I stopped counting it. That's the thing. When you have a number that big, you stop watching it day to day, because what's 400 euros against 195? Nothing. It's nothing. You just don't feel it leave. I told people, the few I told, and I told them badly, at bars too loud. I told them I'd seen this film before. I knew how it ended. That was my line. I must have said it 300 times over the next few years. I've seen this film before. I know how it ends. Say that to yourself now, out loud. Listen to how it sounds. A man who genuinely knows how the film ends does not need to tell strangers. He doesn't need to say it at all. He just doesn't buy a ticket. Anyway, that winter, November, December, January, and Zaandam in January is a color rather than a month. Dark at 4:30, the heating on and the flat empty and my shoulder aching from 31 years. The right one, the one that took the load. I started reading forums, Dutch ones first, then the English ones, the expat boards, all these men with usernames like Bangkok Barry 69 arguing about visa runs and 90-day reporting and whether Chiang Mai is finished. And there was this thread, somebody asking about Hua Hin, quiet town 3 hours south of Bangkok. The Thai king used to summer there. No walking street, no neon. Families on the beach on Sunday. Golf if you like golf. I don't. 2 a.m, laptop open on the kitchen table. Rain on the window doing that Dutch thing where it comes sideways. I read that thread 4 times. March. I landed at Suvarnabhumi at 6 a.m, and the heat hit me in the walkway between the plane and the terminal. Before you're even properly in the country. That wall of it. Wet heat, not Spanish heat, like breathing through a towel. I took the bus down to Hua Hin, 3.5 hours south, and I sat by the window the whole way looking at salt flats and Buddha statues the size of apartment blocks and power lines strung 12 deep across every road like somebody was in a hurry. Now, why Hua Hin? I want to be clear about this because it matters to everything after. I did not choose Hua Hin by accident, and I did not choose it because it was beautiful. I chose it because it was the least dangerous option on the board. Pattaya was out, obviously out. I'd read enough of those forums to know what Pattaya was, and I was not going to be a 55-year-old Dutchman on Soi Buachau at 2 p.m. with a chong in front of me and my life over. Phuket, same thing with better sand and worse prices. Bangkok I liked actually, but a man on his own in Sukhumvit is a man in a city built to separate him from his money, and the city is very good at it. Hua Hin was Thai families on the beach on a Sunday, kids in inflatable rings, old Bangkok money in the Gulf estates, retired Germans and Swedes doing their walk along the beach road at 7 a.m. There is a night market, there are some bars, there is a strip up on Soi Binabat where the girls call out at you, but it's small and you can simply not go there. I didn't go there. Not once in 4 years. I want that on the record. So, retirement visa, non-O, you're 50 or over, and you put 800,000 baht in a Thai bank account and leave it there. That's about 21,000 euros. Or you show 65,000 a month coming in. I did the deposit. Bangkok Bank branch in the Market Village Mall, took 2 visits and a photocopy of every page of my passport, including the blank ones, and the girl behind the desk was extremely polite about the fact that I had brought the wrong document twice. Rented a 1-bedroom off Soi 88 out past the hospital. 9,000 baht a month, about 230 euros. Tiled floor, air-con unit that dripped, a little balcony where I hung my washing, spirit house out the front of the building with a red Fanta and a jasmine garland on it, which I thought was strange for maybe 2 weeks, and then stop seeing entirely, the way you do. And the first months were good. I'll say that honestly. People telling these stories always skip that part, and it's dishonest. Because if it wasn't good, nobody would ever get into trouble. My shoulder stopped hurting. 31 years of load on the right side, and after about 6 weeks in that heat, it just quieted down. That alone. Waking up at 6 because the light comes early, walking down to the beach before the sun got serious, eating jock from the woman with the cart, rice porridge with ginger and a raw egg dropped in, 25 baht, monks in the orange going house to house with their bowls, temple bells somewhere, motorbikes starting up. I felt 15 years younger and about 300 euros a week richer, and I thought, right, this is correct. Now I'll tell you the 3 rules because I built them before I ever got on the plane, and I recited them like a man says a prayer he doesn't believe in. 1. No bar girls, not one, not a drink, not a lady drink, not a bar fine, not a conversation. 2. No money in the first year. Whoever she is. 12 months minimum before 1 baht moves. 3. Never buy property. I can't own land here, no foreigner can, and I was not going to build a house on somebody's father's dirt again. 3 rules, simple, and every single one of them held. I want you to remember that as I go on. Everyone held. There was a bar I did go to, an Australian place off the main road, with a pool table nobody used and Leo on tap. And that's where I met the expats. You know these men. Every town in Thailand has them, and they sit in the same chair every night at the same time, and they have their story polished like a stone in a river. 68-year-old Englishman named Ray, who had lost a house in Chonburi and would tell you about it in the first 11 minutes. A Swede whose wife's family had taken the truck. A Canadian who wasn't bitter, he said. He just wanted you to know how it works here. And I sat with them, and I drank with them, and I felt, I'm ashamed of this. I felt superior. Because they had all gone in blind and I had a system. I'd say it too. I'd say, I've seen this film before. I know how it ends. And Ray would nod and say, so did I, mate. So did I. And I would think, no, you didn't. You're an idiot. I'm not an idiot. The men who tell you they know the ending are the ones who cannot stop buying tickets. I did not understand that then. I met Phi because I broke a tooth. That's it. That's the whole romantic story. Month 3, eating some tam with the crab in it, the little fermented crab, and there's a shell fragment in it, and there goes a molar. Back left. Nothing dramatic, no pain even. Just this new sharp edge my tongue kept going to. Dental clinic off Fetkasem Road, up near the Villa Market end. Glass front, air conditioning like a meat locker. I walked in, and there was a woman on reception in a pale blue uniform, and I told her I had an appointment at Baisong Mong, and she looked up and corrected me. Not rudely, just corrected me. Told me my tone was wrong, and I had said something closer to 2 o'clock in a different sense entirely, and then she made me say it again properly before she checked me in. Nobody in Thailand had corrected me about anything in 3 months. That's what I noticed. Everybody smiles and lets you be wrong. Her name was Phi. Nickname, of course, everyone here goes by a nickname. 31. From Nong Khai, up on the Laos border, northeast. Eldest of 4. She worked 6 days a week on that desk. She had a Honda Click she rode in with a helmet actually on her head. And I found this out later. A savings account she'd had since she was 19. I went back for the crown 2 weeks after. Talked to her while I waited, asked her to dinner. She said no, just no. Polite, a little laugh, back to her screen. I waited about a fortnight and I went in and asked again. Some nonsense about needing the tooth checked. She said no again. And I want to tell you exactly what that did to me, because it's the whole thing. It's the hinge the entire story turns on. It made me feel safe. 2 rejections from a woman with a job and a scooter and no interest in my bank account. That satisfied every rule I had written. That was in my head a completed inspection. Torqued, checked, signed off. Month 4. I asked a third time. Some Tuesday. She said yes, and we went to a little place near the fishing pier. And when the bill came, she put her half down on the table before I had my wallet out and would not take it back. I thought, this one is different. I was right, actually. That's what nobody warns you about. 10 months. I want to walk you through those 10 months properly because this is the part where, if you are watching this to find out where I went wrong, you will not find it. I have looked. I have gone over that period the way you walk a deck after a near miss, looking for the coupler somebody skipped, and it is not there. She paid her own way for 4 months. 4. Not the first date, and then a graceful surrender. 4 months of putting her share on the table at the fishing pier place, at the Azayan restaurant behind the night market where the somtam makes your eyes water, at the little coffee place near the clinic where she'd get the sweet iced one with the condensed milk that I could never drink. She worked 6 days a week, 7 in the morning, the clinic, back on the click at 6. On Sundays, she slept and cleaned and did her laundry and called her mother, in that order. And if I turned up unannounced on a Sunday, she was not particularly pleased about it. Month 5. I tried to buy her a phone. Her screen was cracked across the corner, one of those webs, and it bothered me every time I saw it. So I went to the Samsung counter in Market Village, and I bought a mid-range thing, 11,000 baht, about 280 euros. Nothing. Less than I'd spend on a decent jacket in Holland. She was angry. Properly angry, which in Thailand you almost never see, and she didn't shout, she just went very still and asked me what I thought she was. I still don't fully know what to do with that memory, because at the time I thought, good, correct. This is a woman with pride, and I took the phone back and got the refund minus some nonsense fee. Now I think maybe she was telling me exactly who she was, and I heard it as a test result instead of a sentence. Anyway, I started learning Thai badly. I'm 55, and I've got a Zansi accent in my own language, and the tones defeated me for about a year. There are 5, and you can say the same syllable and mean new, wood, dog, horse, or a question. And I mean it, that's real. My. Phi taught me in the evenings, made me practice, corrected me the way she'd corrected me at the reception desk. No softness in it, and I love that. I actually love that. A Dutchman being corrected is a Dutchman being respected. And through those lessons I learned her family. Not because she volunteered it, because I asked and she answered. Father out past Nong Khai, near the Mekong, some land, rice, a bit of rubber, not much. Mother diabetic on tablets. A younger sister at university in Khon Kaen studying accounting. Another sister, married in Bangkok, doesn't call much. And a brother, older than Phi by 2 years. Here is the thing about the brother. I did not meet him for 2.5 years. I heard about him maybe 15 times in 10 months. Always in fragments, always as somebody who was somewhere else. He is working in Rayong. He is back at home now. He is not so good with money, my brother. That last one. She said that to me, in English, on a plastic chair outside a 7-Eleven on Soy 88, with a Leo in my hand. He is not so good with money. In 31 years of walking a deck, I have never once seen a hole in a drawing that big and stepped past it. Never. In my trade, you stop the job. You get the engineer out. But this wasn't a job, was it? This was a woman I liked telling me a thing about her family, and you do not interrogate a woman about her brother on a plastic chair outside a 7-Eleven. So I said something like, every family has one. And she laughed and it was over in 9 seconds. Month 11, she took me north. Nong Khai in November. 12 hours on the bus, and then the last stretch on a Song Thao. Red one, sitting on a bench with a woman holding a live chicken in a rice sack. And you come over that last bit of road, and there's the Mekong, wide and brown and slow, and Laos on the other side, close enough to see the roofs. The house was concrete and wood, up on legs, chickens underneath, a mango tree, a spirit house with an old garland gone brown. Corrugated roof with a patch on it, 2 dogs that did not care about me at all. Her father was maybe 64, and he took my hand in both of his. Her mother fed me until I genuinely could not sit up straight. Larb, sticky rice you eat with your fingers, a soup with something in it I never identified and enjoyed anyway. The neighbors came. Then the neighbors' neighbors. And I understood what was happening. I want to be clear that I understood it. A farang at the house lifts a family in a village like that. It is status, plain and simple. People were coming to look at me the way you'd come to look at a new truck. I could have been offended. I wasn't. It's honest, isn't it? At least it's honest. Half the reason a Dutch mother likes her daughter's boyfriend is what he does for a living. We just don't put chairs out for the neighbors. Nobody asked me for anything. That's what I want you to hear. 4 days in that house, 3 generations sleeping under one roof with a hole in it, and not one person asked me for one baht. I flew back thinking, these are proud people. They don't want my money. Kreng Jai, that's the word. It means, roughly, you don't put your burden on another person. You don't cause them discomfort. You don't ask. It is a beautiful thing, and it is genuinely how they live. And I got it exactly, precisely, 100% backwards. Nobody asking does not mean nobody needs. It means nobody asks. Month 14. She moved in with me. Her lease was up. My place was closer to the clinic. It was the sensible thing, and we were both sensible people. She brought 2 bags and a rice cooker and a small gold Buddha for the shelf. And that's when the money started. 15,000 baht a month, about 395 euros into the household. Rent, food, the electric bill, which in April will destroy you, and whatever she chose to send north. Rule 2 was 12 months. I did it at 14. I was proud of that. I want you to understand how proud I was of that, because it's the most humiliating part of this whole story, and I'd rather say it myself than have you work it out. I sat in that flat with the aircon dripping into its little tray, and I thought, 2 months of margin, disciplined, inspected, signed off. That is the last moment in this story where I was watching anything. Because once you've decided a structure is sound, you stop walking the deck. You just use the building. And nothing collapsed. That's the thing. Nothing collapsed for another 5 months, and every day nothing collapsed was another day of evidence that I'd been right. Months 15 through 18. Good. Genuinely, boringly good. Sunday mornings at the beach. Her teaching me to argue with a market woman about the price of mangosteens. Me teaching her the Dutch for gezellig, which she thought was a stupid word. And she was correct. Month 19. 6 in the morning, still dark, the roosters going, and the first motorbikes starting up outside. Her phone rang and she sat straight up in bed. It was her mother. 6 in the morning, still dark, the roosters going outside and the first motorbikes coughing awake on Soy 88. And Phi sat straight up in bed and spoke maybe 40 words of a saying I couldn't follow, and then went very quiet. Kidneys. That's what she told me. The diabetes had gone into the kidneys, and they'd taken her mother to the hospital in Udon Thani, which is the big city about an hour from the village. And there was dialysis, and there was a complication, and there was a number. 240,000 baht, about 6,300 euros. I want to tell you how long I thought about it. I have thought a great deal about how long I thought about it. Maybe 90 seconds. Because here's the thing, nobody tells you about having money when you've never had money. I spent 31 years where a bad month meant no overtime and you eat differently. And now I'm sitting in a flat in Hua Hin with 190-something in the bank and a woman I love, I'll use the word why not, crying in a way she absolutely did not want me to see, turned away, into her hands. And I could just fix it, that's all. I could take my phone and move a number from one place to another place, and the thing that was breaking her would stop. Do you know what that feels like? For a man who has been useless since he stopped working? I've been trying to describe it for a year and a half. It's not generosity. I want to be very clear, it was not generosity. It's closer to being a machine that finally gets switched on. I transferred it that morning, Bangkok Bank app, into her account. Done before 8, and I felt bigger than I had felt in 5 years. I did not ask for a hospital bill. I did not ask for a name of a doctor or a ward number or anything else. Now, my whole trade is paperwork. That surprises people. A scaffolder signs off a deck. There's a tag on it. There's a register. There's a date and a signature. And if it isn't written down, it did not happen. 31 years of that. And I didn't ask for a receipt from the woman who cooked me larb for 4 days. Because you don't. Because asking would have said, I think you might be lying about your mother. And there is no way to say that to a Thai family and still sit at their table. That's not even a Thai thing. That's just a thing. Ask your own sister for a receipt sometime and see how the Christmas goes. So, months 19 through 26, the absorption, That's the only word I have for it. I stopped being the boyfriend and became attached, part of the load path. Songkran that April, back up north, everybody's soaking everybody in the street, buckets, hoses, kids with those pump guns, and her uncle pouring water down my collar and laughing at my face. 39 degrees and you are wet all day, and it is the best thing you have ever done. Merit making at the temple in the mornings. Tam Boon, giving food to the monks with Phi's mother beside me, showing me how to hold the bowl, how to stand, how to take my shoes off properly. The younger sister in Con Kane, studying accounting. 22, sharp as a knife, spoke better English than Phi. I offered to cover her tuition. Phi said no. I offered again a month later, and she said no again. And I said it a third time. And she went away and came back and said, okay, but only half and only the fees, not the living. 42,000 baht a year, about 1,100 euros. Nothing. And her father, at some point that year, gave me a Y, a proper one, hands up high, which an older man does not do to a younger man in Thailand. The age hierarchy runs the other way. I should have been doing it to him, and I was. He did it anyway in front of people, and I did not understand exactly what it meant, and I felt it in my chest like a hand. Now, the flags. Let me lay them out, because I have them all in a row now, and beside each one I'll put what I told myself. That second column is the actual story. 1. The brother, still not present. 2.5 years now, and every family gathering there's a reason. He's in Rayong, he's got work, he's coming next month. Present enough in the conversation that I knew his name. Absent enough that I had no face for him. What I told myself, every family has one. Mine has a cousin in Almere I haven't seen since 2011. 2, her mother got better. Which is good, obviously, that's good news. But I never saw her go to a dialysis appointment. Not once in all those visits, and dialysis isn't a thing you do quietly on a Tuesday. It's 3 times a week, 4 hours a time. What I told myself? I don't understand Thai medicine. I don't understand the government hospital system. Half the things here happen in rooms I'm not in. Who am I to say? That one. That one I could have solved with one question in bad Thai, and I chose to be humble instead. Humility is a wonderful place to hide. 3. The money North went through Phi. All of it. She handled the transfers, she managed the family, and I got no accounting of anything, ever, and I never once asked. What I told myself, and here's where I want you to laugh at me, please go ahead. I told myself I was being culturally sensitive. I'd learned the word for face. I knew about Krengjai. I was the Farang who understood that you do not embarrass people with questions. I used the culture as a reason not to do my job. That's what that was. I dressed up not wanting to know, and I called it respect. 4. Ray at the Australian bar. The bitter Englishman. The one who lost the house in Chonburi, 68 years old with a Leo and a story polished like a riverstone. He asked me straight out, one night, maybe month 22, "Mate, did you see the hospital?" And I said something about it not being my business how a family handles a sick mother, and I was pleased with myself for saying it. And Ray shrugged and said fair enough and went back to his beer. That was it. One question. 11 words from a man I had decided was an idiot because his story sounded like mine. Month 26, I asked her to marry me. And then came Sinsod. I want to be careful here because the internet is full of men frothing about this, and most of them don't know what they're talking about. Sinsod is real. It's old. It's not a scam. It's a statement. This man can support your daughter, and this family did not give her away for nothing. And everybody in the village sees the amount, and the family's standing is made or broken on it. There is a whole negotiation done politely through intermediaries with T. Her father asked for 500,000. We settled at 400,000 baht, about 10,500 euros, plus 180 for the ceremony, so another 4,700 euros. Monks in the morning, the white string tied around our wrists, water poured over our hands, 90 people, whiskey, a sound system loud enough to be heard in Laos. And in all of that, I did one careful thing. 1. We never registered at the AMFU. I told myself it was sensible. Foreigner marries Thai woman, foreigner divorces Thai woman, Foreigner walks out with a suitcase, everybody knows it. So we had the ceremony, the whole village saw it, and legally I was nothing to her, and she was nothing to me. I was quietly, privately proud of that for about 7 months. It protected my money. It protected exactly the thing that was never in danger. 7 months. I need to tell you about those 7 months honestly, or the rest of this is worthless, because the temptation is to skip them, to go straight from the wedding to the bad part, and let you think I was miserable the whole time, quietly suspicious, counting things. I wasn't. It was the best year of my adult life. We moved to a bigger place off Soy 94, 2 bedrooms, 16,000 a month, about 420 euros. She kept working. That's the thing people don't believe when I tell them. She kept the job at the clinic the whole way through. 6 days, the click, the helmet. I'd have paid for her to stop. She didn't want to stop. Sunday mornings, we'd go down to the beach at Kautakiab, where the monkeys are, buy the grilled squid off the cart, sit on the plastic mats. She'd fall asleep on me in about 11 minutes, every time, like a switch. I'd sit there with a dead arm and the sound of the water and the long tails going out and think, right, this is what it was for. 31 years of Pernus in January was for this. My Thai got, not good, functional. I could argue about a price. I could order without pointing. I could follow maybe a third of what got said at the dinner table before it went into a san and left me behind entirely. And I want to say this clearly because it matters at the end. She was kind to me, not perform kindness. She'd fill my water bottle and put it by the door because I always forgot it. She learned that I get quiet when my shoulder's bad, and she'd leave me alone about it instead of asking. Those are not the actions of somebody running an operation. The house didn't arrive as a request. I want you to understand the shape of it, because if you're going to learn one thing from me, learn this shape. It came as weather. Nobody said, "Just build us a house." Nobody has ever said anything like that to me in that family, not once, not in 4 years. What happens instead is that over about 3 months, the roof gets mentioned more often. Just mentioned. The rain came in on the east side again. The bucket in the corner. Her mother's chest is bad in the wet season. The doctor said the damp. Then the sister's wedding someday, and where would people even sit? Then a photograph on Facebook of a house 2 villages over, new concrete, blue metal roof. The daughter married a Norwegian. And Phi showing me the photo and saying nothing at all about it. Just showing me. 9 or 10 of those over a season. Each one nothing. You could not point at a single one and call it a request. And if you did, if you said, "Are you asking me for a house?" they would be genuinely, deeply embarrassed, and you would have insulted everybody at the table. This is Kreng Jai working exactly as designed. Nobody puts the burden on you. The burden simply becomes visible, and then you must decide alone, in your own head, what kind of man you are. I brought it up. Me. I said it first. That's the detail I keep circling, sitting on that balcony at night with a Leo. Nobody asked me, I offered. Now here's where I need you to pay attention, because this is the part every foreigner in Thailand thinks he understands. I cannot own land here. No foreigner can. Not with a company structure, not with a nominee, not with a 30-year lease that everybody promises will renew. Those are all things men in bars tell each other, and they are all, in the end, a way of paying full price to own nothing. And a house is not separate from the land in Thailand. You can technically split it. There's a mechanism, but on a family plot outside Nong Khai with a chenote in her father's name from 1987, the house belongs to the land. The land belongs to him. That's it. That's the whole law. I knew this, not vaguely, specifically. I said it out loud to Phi at the kitchen table in English, slowly, so there could be no confusion. I understand this house will not be mine. If we finish tomorrow, I have no claim on one brick of it. And she said yes, not defensively, almost puzzled, like I'd explained that water is wet. Of course it's my father's. It's my father's land. That was the conversation. That was me doing my due diligence. 1.4 million baht, 36,800 euros, paid in 4 progress payments over about 5 months to a contractor in Nong Khai I never met, never spoke to, whose company name I could not tell you today. Concrete posts, 2 bedrooms plus the big room, tiled floor, proper bathroom, blue metal roof like the Norwegians. Her father put a spirit house at the corner before the walls went up. And Rule 3, never buy property, Rule 3 held. I want you to sit with that, because it's the whole architecture of how I fooled myself. I didn't buy anything. There was no purchase, no deed with my name on it, no contract, no shenote, nothing to be tricked out of. I gave money to a family for a building on their land, freely, knowing exactly what I was doing. You cannot lose a thing you never owned. That was my logic. I was quite pleased with it. That is a man reading the wording of his own rule out loud to himself while he walks straight through the gap in it. The first crack was a piece of paper. Third, progress payment. I'm at the table in Hua Hin, Phi's in the shower, and there's a bank slip on the counter under her keys. She'd done the transfer in person at the branch on Fetkasim because the app had some problem, she'd said. And the payee name was not the contractor. It was her family name and a first name that was not her father's and not hers. I stood there with the aircon dripping and I thought about it for, call it a minute. And when she came out, I asked straight, because I'm Dutch and that's what I do. I said, whose account is this? And she said her brother's, because he lives up there, because the contractor wanted cash for the Tyler and the brother handled it, because it's easier, because the branch, because Nong Khai. Fluent. Immediate. No hesitation at all. And I remember thinking that was reassuring. A person inventing something hesitates, doesn't she? She wasn't inventing. She just had a lot of practice saying true things that were not the whole thing. I said, okay. I put the slip down. That was month 31. Second crack, about 5 weeks later. Her mother rang me directly, which she'd never done ever in 3 years. Phi wasn't home. And through my bad Thai and her patient repeating, I worked out she was asking about money for her tablets, the diabetes medication, which Phi had told me 2 months before was covered. Handled, she'd said, done. I asked Phi that night. She said her mother is old and confused and forgets what's been paid and gets shy about asking, and I should not worry, and I didn't. Or, no, that's a lie. I did worry. I worried for about 4 days, and then I let it go, because the alternative was to start pulling on a thread in a house I had just built for people who had fed me and poured water down my collar and weighed me in front of their neighbors. I chose not to know. Again. 4th or 5th time by then, I'd got very good at it. Month 33, April, and the house was finished enough to sit in. Songkran coming, the whole family going up to Nong Khai. Everyone. And Phi said, almost as nothing, over her coffee, my brother will come this year. Songkran in Nong Khai. The house was done. Blue roof, concrete posts, the tiles still with that new tile smell, and her father had put a little strip of gold paper over the doorframe. 90 people through it in 3 days. Neighbors, the abbot from the temple, the woman who sells the grilled chicken by the road. Everyone touching the walls. And in the street, it's carnage in the good way. Pickup trucks going past with oil drums of water in the back. Kids with the pump guns. Ice water down your spine when you're not looking. Powder on everybody's face. That thick white chalky stuff. Speakers on a trolley playing Morlam, so loud your chest goes with it. 40 degrees. Hong thong and soda and ice in plastic buckets on every table from about 11 in the morning. And the brother came. I want to describe him properly because I had built a man in my head over 2.5 years, and he was not that man. Somchai, 33. Not a wreck, not shifty. Big, loud, generous. The sort who buys the whole table around he can't pay for. Gold chain, nice phone. He hugged me. He called me P. Joost, older brother, and put whiskey in my glass before I'd finished the last one, and told everyone how his sister's Farang built the house. I liked him. That's the part one, don't say out loud much. I actually liked him. Second night, maybe 11 o'clock. The music had moved down the road. There were maybe 15 people left in the big room sitting on the floor, the fans going, and Knock, the younger sister, the one at Con Kane, the accountant, 22, the one whose fees I'd paid. Knock and Somchai started arguing. I couldn't follow it. Isan, fast, and I'm 3 whiskeys in with my 30% comprehension. But you don't need the words. You can watch a room and know. Everybody got very interested in the floor. Her mother said something short. Her father did not say anything at all. Then Knox stood up and came over and sat down next to me and started talking in English. And I need you to understand what that costs in that culture. Kreng Jai, the whole architecture of not putting your burden on another person, not causing loss of face, not saying the unsayable in front of the family. She broke every bit of it in about 90 seconds at 22 years old in front of her parents because she was drunk and furious with her brother and because I think she liked me, and it had been sitting in her for 2 years. The dialysis money, 240,000 baht, month 19. There was no dialysis. Her mother has diabetes, yes, real, tablets, real, the whole thing real. And she has never had kidney failure. Never been on a machine. That money went to Nong Kai, to two men who lend at 5% a month against what Somchai owed. And it didn't stop there. A piece of the sin sod went the same way. I don't know how much. Nok didn't know exactly either. She thought maybe half. And the third progress payment on the house, the one with his name on the bank slip, not the Tyler's cash. His. I sat there with a plastic cup in my hand and the fan going round, and I did the sum. I'm quick with numbers, it's the trade. You're always adding up standards and boards in your head. Roughly 62,000 euros over 33 months. Not all of it stolen. Most of it not stolen at all. Most of it went exactly where I thought. But the load path wasn't what I'd been shown. Not once. Not in 3 years. And Phi knew. That's the sentence. Knox said it plainly. Everybody in that room knew. Her mother knew. Her father, who weighed me in front of his neighbors, knew. I didn't shout. I want to say that. There's a version of this story where the Dutchman turns over a table, and I'd almost prefer it. Honestly, it'd be a better video. What I did was stand up, say thank you for the food, and walk out into the road and stand there in the dark with the water still running down the gutters and the music going 2 streets over. We talked on the 3rd day, and for the rest of my life, I will be turning that conversation over. She did not cry. She did not deny one single thing. She did not, and this is the part that took me a year to understand, she did not think she had done anything. She was confused that I was angry, genuinely, not performing it, because here is her account, and I have to give it to you straight, even though it's the thing that beat me. I gave money to her family. Her family used the money for the family. Her brother is her family. His debt was the family's debt. That's not a metaphor up there. When a man like that owes money like that, men come to the house, and the house is her mother's house. Fixing it was not a diversion of my money. It was the correct use of it. And I said, you told me it was dialysis. And she said, I'm going to give you this as close as I can. She said, you asked me, is my mother sick? My mother is sick. You asked how much. I told you how much. I said, that's not the same thing. She said, if I tell you about my brother, you don't give. And there it was. She wasn't even hiding it at that point. She knew that a farang would pay for a mother's kidneys and would not pay for a brother's gambling debt, and she was correct. I wouldn't have. So she gave me the true sentence that would work instead of the true sentence that wouldn't. Is that lying? I've asked 20 people. I've asked myself at 4 in the morning, more times than I can count. In Holland, yes, absolutely yes. In Holland, we consider it a courtesy to tell you the ugly thing to your face, and we think everyone who doesn't is a coward. That's how I was raised. That's my whole personality, and I have been insufferable about it for 55 years. In that room, in that house, with 3 generations under one roof and a brother who has brought men to the door, what she did was protect her family from a man who might not stay, and protect me from a shame that wasn't mine to carry, and keep everybody's face intact. She'd say she never lied to me, and I sat there and I could not, I still cannot, find the sentence where she did. We were never using the same map. That's all it was. And I'd been so busy checking the couplers that it never occurred to me to check whether I was even looking at the right drawing. The other thing that hit me later on the bus, the house. 1.4 million baht on her father's land, which I had known and stated and been proud of stating. And I'd built it partly for a mother whose medical crisis was not what I was told it was, and partly because a roof leaked, And partly, mostly if I'm honest, and I've decided to be honest, because it made me somebody in that village. I flew back down to Hua Hin, 12 hours, the same road, past the same Buddha statues, 62,000 euros, 33 months, 58 years old now near enough. And Phi came home from the clinic at 6 on the click, with the helmet on and put her keys down, and neither of us said anything about it, and neither of us left. 15 months. That's how long it's been since Songkran. And if you're waiting for the part where one pack a bag, I don't have that part. 1,000 still here. Same flat off Soi 94. Phi came home from the clinic about 40 minutes ago, and she's downstairs now talking to the landlady about the water pump. I know exactly how that sounds. Ray at the Australian bar would have a field day, except Ray died in October, heart 69, and about 11 of us went to the crematorium at Wat Bunsamphan and stood there in shirts that were too hot, which is another thing about this life that nobody tells you. Why didn't I go? I've had 15 months to build a decent answer, and I've got 3, and I don't much like any of them. One is my age. I'm 58 now, near enough. The market for a Dutch scaffolder with a wrecked right shoulder and no house is not what it was. 2 is the money. Not gone. That's important. I want to be accurate. This isn't a man on the floor. About 130,000 euros left roughly. 800,000 of it locked in the Bangkok bank account for the visa, which I renew every March at the immigration office in Phetchaburi with the same photocopies and the same wrong document. AOW comes at 67, 1,500 a month or so. I'm fine. I live on maybe 40,000 baht a month, about 1,000 euros, and I could do this for 30 years. But 3 is the real one. 3 is that I sat down after Songkran and did the thing I do, the only thing I know how to do. I inspected it, went over the whole structure, joint by joint, 33 months of it, looking for the point of failure. And I could not find the lie. I looked for it. God, I looked. But every single sentence that woman said to me was true. Her mother is sick. Her mother did need money. The family did need the money. The roof did leak. She never once told me a false thing. She just didn't tell me the true thing that would have stopped me. And in Holland, that's the same as lying, and here it isn't. And I have gone back and forth across that line so many times I've worn a path in it. So here's the ledger, since that's what you came for. 62,000 euros over 33 months. Of that, maybe 15 went somewhere other than where I thought. The fake dialysis, part of the sin sod, 1 progress payment. The rest went exactly where I was told. Food, rent, a sister's accounting degree, a mother's actual tablets, a house. 33 months of my life, and I don't count those as lost, and I'd fight anybody who tried to tell me they were. 1.4 million baht of concrete and blue metal roof outside Nong Khai that I paid for and cannot enter without an invitation. It's on Google Maps now. Somebody's been driving the Street View car up those roads, and you can see it. You can actually see the corner of it past the mango tree, and I have looked at that photograph more times than a grown man should. And the marriage. The one careful thing I did. We never registered at the AMFO, remember. I was so proud of that. And what that means now is that I have no claim on anything, and she has no claim on anything. And there's nothing to divide because there's nothing joint. It protected my 130,000. It also means that after 4 years, the state of Thailand and the state of the Netherlands both consider us 2 strangers sharing a rented flat. The 90 people who came to that wedding would disagree. So would her father. So if I'm honest, would I? My sister in Zaandam still doesn't know about Cebu, doesn't know about any of this. We speak most Sundays and I tell her the weather is good. That's the real cost if you want it. 4 years of every important sentence going unsaid to the one person in Europe who'd have listened. I still send her mother 5,000 baht some months, 130 euros. Nobody asks, it just goes. I call that stupidity when the lads ask. It isn't stupidity. That woman fed me for 4 days when I was nobody and taught me how to hold the bowl at the temple. And she is old and she is sick. And if I stopped, I would be a man who stopped. And I don't want to be that. Both things are true. She was part of a thing that took 62,000 euros off me, and I will keep sending her the 5,000 until one of us dies. If you want that to make sense, you're asking the wrong man. Now, the 3 rules. The video's called that, so let me pay up. My 3 were, no bar girls, no money in the first year, never buy property. I kept all 3 perfectly. And they protected me completely from a story that was never going to happen to me. That's what I'd want you to take from this, if you take one thing. I armored the front of the building. Beautiful job. And the load came from underneath. So here are the actual 3. From me, 58, sitting on a balcony in Hua Hin with a warm Leo, and you can have them for nothing. 1. You are not dating a woman. You are joining a household ledger. There is a family up there with income and debts and a sick parent and a brother. And the moment you're serious, you are a line in that ledger. Not a scam. That's just what a family is here. But know which document you've signed. 2. Ask what the family owes before you ask for their blessing. Not what they need. What they owe, and to who, and since when. Ask it early. Ask it badly. Ask it in terrible Thai while you're a nobody and it costs nothing. Everybody will be embarrassed, and it will be over in a minute. I waited until I'd paid for a wedding and a house, and by then the question wasn't a question, it was an accusation. 3. Never send money you'd need an explanation for, because you will get one, and it will be true, and it will not be the whole thing. If the amount is big enough that you want the story, that means you've already decided the story matters. So get the receipt, the ward number, the name. Not because she's a thief, because you are a man handing over 6,000 euros at 6 in the morning on 90 seconds of thought. And that man needs paperwork the same as any other job. That's it. That's what 62,000 euros bought. I don't think I was robbed. I think I walked onto a deck in a country whose drawings I couldn't read, and I checked every coupler I recognized and I signed it off. And the funny thing, the thing that gets me at 4 in the morning, is that I'd probably do it again. Not the money, the rest of it. Her asleep on my arm at Khao Takiab in 11 minutes flat. I don't say I've seen this film before anymore. I stopped about a year ago. You only say that when you haven't. That was Just, and that's his story. Here's what I'd ask you to sit with. There's no villain in what you just heard. There's a woman who worked 6 days a week and never stopped. A family in Nong Khai with a real sick mother and a real leaking roof and a son who owed money to the wrong people. And a Dutchman with more money than he'd ever had and a hole in him he'd been carrying since Cebu. Most stories on this channel are about deception. This one is about the distance between she lied to me and she never told me. And I'd put it to you that most of these stories actually live in that gap, and that the gap is where the money goes. Just isn't broke and he isn't broken, but he can't walk into the house he paid for, and he can't tell his sister what happened, and neither of those is something a lawyer can fix. So ask the boring questions early. While it's cheap, while it's still just a question. Thanks for being here. That's all from us. This is Thailand.